Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel and learn all about the steering wheel buttons as well as that cluster screen. So one thing to point out is that this vehicle does have the Copilot 360 Plus package, which is going to give us the adaptive cruise control. If we didn't have that Copilot 360 Plus, we would just have regular cruise control there. But this one does have the added 360 Plus, which gives us the adaptive. So we've got the ability to easily turn on our lane keeping system. We know that one's on whenever we see this button along the top on the screen. And we've also got our lane centering button in the bottom there. So when we see that steering wheel in the middle, that means that the lane centering system is on as well. Now that's a system that's going to potentially recenter us back into our lane if we start to veer over without signaling. From there, the very top left button is going to be our distance indicator. So that's going to let us determine the distance that we are between us and the vehicle in front of us when we're using the adaptive cruise control. The bottom right-hand button is going to be the ability to cancel out the cruise, and if for whatever reason we have to press the brake, we can press the resume button in the middle there. And from there, this also acts as a trigger switch, so we can either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time, or we can use it to initially set our speed. So very, very straightforward. Now, one thing to note is that with the adaptive cruise control system, if you've never used it before, once you do, you'll never want to go back because it's a set it and forget it cruise control. Let's say if you set it at 120 on the highway, if the vehicle in front of you slows down, yours will automatically slow down, can come to a complete stop before picking you back up to speed again. It's a really, really useful feature to have as we start to move down. So we've got a couple things to look at. We've got the ability to either increase or decrease our volume, or we can completely mute by pressing this button along the bottom. On the right-hand side, ton of other options there. We've got our back button, the ability to scroll through screens. This middle button works as a hotkey as well, so we can just press and hold. And then we've got a basic menu settings button. So let's see how these all work in tandem with this middle screen. So as you can see there, we've got some basic trip settings. So if we ever need to reset our trip, all we're going to do is press and hold the OK button there in the middle, and that's reset us again. From there, as we start to move down, we've got a few different settings there. So our tire pressure, active station, and we've got the ability to do a few different things there. So we can go up, down with it there to look at some different screens. If we press the menu button, we've got the ability to look at some basic settings. So things like our oil life, we can also do an oil life reset. Moving into our display setup, so we've got the ability to show our miles per hour there. So as you see, we go from kilometers to miles per hour. It would be the same down in the States if you were in miles to show kilometers per hour. And from there, we can go back. And we've got the ability to move between different screens there. And same thing, just by pressing the menu button, it's going to give us the option to do a couple different things and to look at a few different settings there. So very, very straightforward. It's a very simple, non-obtrusive, not complex screen whatsoever, but very, very straightforward just by navigating, by pressing these buttons there. As we start to move down, a few other buttons to point out. We've got the ability to either change between radio stations or songs. We can hang up on a phone call. We can answer a phone call. And then this is going to be the hotkey for our voice command options. So we've got the ability to change a radio station, navigate, make phone calls, etc., all by pressing this middle button. Now, a couple other things to point out on this thing. Along the left-hand stick there, the very tip, that's going to be for our lane keeping system. So lane keeping system, we can turn that one on or off. We know that the system is actually on when we see these lanes there. Now, the system itself doesn't actually activate until we hit about 62 kilometers an hour, and that's going to highlight green when we know that it's fully active. From there, we've got the ability to flick our high beams on or off. Now, one thing to note is that when we're on the auto setting, we can't turn our high beams on all the time. The vehicle's automatically going to adjust it for us. So all we need to do is we just need to switch it from our auto into our lights on all the time setting instead. But I do recommend keeping it in the auto. Let the car determine when the light should be on. As we move over to the stick on the right, so this vehicle is equipped with rain sensing wipers. So this is going to determine the sensitivity to the rain on the windshield. Very end of it, the stick there, as you can see, that little button is going to let us control that rear window wiper, so we can turn it on all the time or have it intermittent. By pulling the stick towards us, that's going to be for our front windshield wiper, and by pushing away, that's going to be for the one in the back.